Welcome back to another episode of the Canon. I'm your host Terry, and today I'm doing my top 10 superhero movies of all time. Doing superheroes, not trying to use comic books and get all these extra movies, just superhero movies. And again, this is my top 10. This is my opinion, what it means to me. I'm not exactly saying, okay, this is the best made movie. Like, we're not going to do that. Just doing my top 10. So if you agree, you agree. If you disagree, you disagree. That's the point of having an opinion. With that said, I will say that impact the innovation on the genre or whatever did play a big part for me in my rankings because it was kind of hard to put these together. But anyway, let's jump into it. Number 10, I got X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, X-Men movies in particular were difficult to really choose between. X-Men is the OG, the OOG. I mean, we talk about Spider-Man, I'll talk about that later, but X-Men really did kick off the superhero stuff at a blockbuster level. And I remember it, but X-Men, the third act didn't really hold up for me. I think the big fight scene didn't go down as great as it could have, but it had a lot to say about X-Men and what the world thought of them. X2, great movie, structured well. It didn't have as much to say as X-Men. It wasn't more government, whatever. It was like undercover government agency came in and took them. So it wasn't the same. Now, Days of Future Past, the thing that sticks out to me is what they were able to do in that movie. You got to think 2 generations of actors playing these same characters coming together. And not only that, but able to erase all the mistakes of the company's past and one really creative adaptation of a popular story. So, I mean, you changed a lot of things from, the comics, but it was such a great movie. The thing that really sticks with me with Future Past is the terror I felt in the future, where it felt like there was nothing that could be done to save these people. And you really felt that while Wolverine was trying to change the past, it really did mean something. It wasn't just like, okay, let's fix this little mistake. It's like, if you don't do this, everybody's dying. And so you got to see the tragedy of all your favorite people dying and still leaving the movie without that actually being the case. So just a lot in one movie was very impressive to balance, in my opinion. All right, so number 9 is the original Spider-Man from Sam Raimi. Again, we talk about innovation, man. X-Men was crazy to see, but Spider-Man took it to another level. One of the most popular characters. But when you saw that it was real, because back then CG wasn't great, but you expected CG because that's the only way you can make things look like that with special effects. But when you saw that real Spider-Man suit, when I saw that Tobey Maguire actually could be in the Spider-Man suit, that's when it took it from cartoons, comics, to real life to me, and it absolutely exploded. But then you talk about William Dafoe, a great villain performance that might be a little underrated, especially when you look at a lot of the movies we got now where a lot of villains aren't that great. William Dafoe put that Green Goblin on another level. Tobey Maguire, some people say, is the best Spider-Man. I just, think of the impact going to the movies in 2001, or 2002, and just, man, that changed movies for me, and that changed superheroes for me too. But definitely, I still think a great movie because of William Dafoe's performance. Number 8 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, I did not like the first Captain America. I was already sold on Chris Evans' Cap because of the Avengers. When I first saw the first movie and I heard he was going to be Cap, I was like, no way, not Johnny Storm. But then the first movie came out, and I'm like, I could kind of dig it, but I don't like this movie. But I like Chris Evans. And then Avengers, that's when I really was like, no, he's Captain America. So then you follow it up with a completely different movie. It wasn't just a superhero movie. This is when I was like, wow, okay, superhero movies can do, sub-genres, because it was a spy movie. It was like a guy that was made by the government, was not slave, but, loved the government, now having, false illusions or illusions of, whatever, disillusions of the government and the military, and then his superior disappears under mysterious circumstances. You got people spying on him because of his neighbor. Then you got Bucky coming back as the Winter Soldier. It was a really good movie. When he was on the run, Captain America was disgraced. Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. That really changed the game for me. And it really was like, okay, not only can Captain America movies be fun, but wow, superhero movies can do a lot more than I originally thought they could. And I remember just sitting in the theater, like, I remember I saw Thor: The Dark World 2. I had the same feeling, like, man, this isn't going to be that good. And it wasn't. And then I felt the same thing going to see Captain America, but then my mind was completely blown. So Chris Evans, top notch. And then I think you really saw Scarlett Johansson just continue to elevate people's movies in a supporting role. Then, of course, you got Anthony Mackie. I love Anthony Mackie. Not a huge fan of his Falcon in this movie, but we got Falcon, and the way they changed their relationship, I'm so happy they did it, where he's another ex-vet instead of just a little kid. So, alright, number 7, we got Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi. This, for a long time, was the best comic book movie to most people. Still a great movie. I think it's not that it doesn't hold up, it's just that there's a lot of quality out there, so it's hard to, keep it as the top movie. But, man, what can you say about Dr. Octopus, Otto, and Alfred Molina's performance, just like I spoke with William Dafoe? The thing I like about Spider-Man 2 that took it over the top of Spider-Man is that you saw the maturation process of Peter Parker, and you saw him elevate as a hero to this point where he's losing powers because he doesn't believe, in being a hero as much. And that is Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always classically been the tear between being a normal person and a hero. A lot of heroes do that, but I don't think anybody but Spider-Man has done it the best, because he really loves Mary Jane. When he was in high school, he really wanted to be popular. All this stuff that he kept having to run away from to be a hero. And this is where he really wants to be with Mary Jane, his love of his life. And so he losing his powers, and he's kind of like, maybe I don't need to be a hero. But then heroics find him, even though he's trying to run from it. So just a really good psychological movie. Of course, one of the most iconic scenes on the train with Dr. Octopus. Just overall a great movie, one that holds up. Alright, so number 6, Man of Steel by Zack Snyder. So Man of Steel kicks off the DCEU. We know it's, mixed. I do think the people that like it actually love it. And so while it has its haters, man, this movie's amazing to me. It could be higher for me, because what you really got out of Man of Steel was taking a lore of a character, really looking at the essence of it and putting it in a different situation, and still having the same character. So it's like, okay, if we don't have him be a Boy Scout or react this way, or the world react this way, some people might say that, well, that's not Superman then. But I think DC Warner Brothers said, no, we can change the way the world reacts around him and he reacts to the world and still have Superman. And that was the most amazing part about it. It was at a time where a lot of, I think not social justice, but I think the issues of the world, the societal issues, were really starting to be on the forefront, like bullying, all these cyberbullying, all this stuff. And so to see a Superman that was bullied as a kid, that wasn't accepted as a kid and felt alienated, and then grew up to feel like he didn't belong anywhere, and really having to ask the question, why should I be Superman? And for me, I before this movie came out, I always said to my brothers or friends, I'm just like, Superman's the big blue Boy Scout. He does everything, for people, but it's like, why? We never know why. We saw his story, but there's never a point where it's like, what made him feel like, okay, that's what I need to do. And so this movie dives into it. Even though it doesn't get there by the end of it, and it doesn't get there in BVS, I think we're going to see the fruition in Justice League, but it starts the seeds of why is Superman so loyal and so protecting of the world. And so I think we're getting there, and it's a very interesting way to tell the story, even if some people don't agree. Number 5, Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan's trilogy's kickoff. I didn't see Batman Begins in the theater. I didn't even know it was out, to be honest with you. I saw it on TNT, still remember it to this day. I was like, there's a Batman movie out? And so I saw it was playing. I waited till it, came on again. Watched it and lost my mind. Batman Begins went much like Man of Steel, while I like these, and Christopher Nolan had a big hand in Man of Steel. They took these characters, these heroes, these comic book people, and brought them down to a realistic point of view. Christopher Nolan's things was no magic, all that, everything was practical. So seeing Batman on a practical level, which makes sense because he doesn't have powers, but seeing something different where you're talking about he was trained by the League of Assassins, which I had never heard of before, or I didn't know he trained with Ra's al Ghul before that. And so you get all these different things, and just some of the performances, the way they did the Scarecrow, all that, the thought of using fear and psychology against your opponent. Well-made movie. That's all I'll say. So then we got number 4 is Marvel's Avengers. I was trying to remember. Marvel's Avengers, you know what? A lot of people say Iron Man kicked off the MCU. It did kick off the MCU, but they say that kicked off the superhero craze. Not true. X-Men kicked off superhero craze. What took superheroes to a new level was the Avengers, because the whole same story through all the movies was cool. But it didn't matter until the storylines collided and made everybody meet up. And Avengers showed you that you could meet everybody up in a team up. And not only that, the money was out of this world. And people are making cinematic universes because each movie is supposedly going to be blockbuster. They're really making universes so they can do the team ups that make ridiculous amounts of money because they saw Marvel do it. This movie, again, what it did for me was just like, again, you could put these people together. It's not, one camera for one hero. You can really cross over and not just team people up, like an Iron Man and Spider-Man. You can put a team of people together, not just, a duo. And so the thing I like about Avengers, even though looking back, I don't know if the story holds up, is great for me, but I love how they met. I love that it wasn't just kumbaya. It was kind of a circumstantial thing that brought Thor to Iron Man trying to chase Loki, and then nobody wanted to work with the Hulk, and Captain and Iron Man didn't like each other. So I really liked how it was the storming and the norming, then the forming of the team. That's business if you're a business student. And so I like that it wasn't just kind of forced together kumbaya. They really did have a filling out period, and even at the end of it, they weren't the greatest, but they became heroes to the world, and so that kind of brought them together as they saw what they can do together. Number 3 is Logan. Logan came out this year, 2017. Man, my reviews of it, it's a high 90 movie for me. The movie is just absolutely amazing as far as performances. It's amazing for what they did to the character. Again, taking the essence of a character, putting them in a different story. But you got Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart delivering. Hugh Jackman, top performance. Patrick Stewart, Oscar level performance. And then Daphne King for being a little first timer girl. The stuff she had to do, Spanish, English, action, all that. Shoot, she was amazing. The goriness of it got a little bit too much for me, but it's still a really great movie. It's a great imagining. I would say go check my review if you really want me to get into detail with it. But it's just an amazing, independent feeling movie. It takes a superhero and puts them in a more realistic tone, and it puts it in definitely a gritty tone, but it has so much heart and light moments to it that you care about them as, things start going down. Number 2 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So I think I'm not going to say critics, but I'm going to say the professionals, the industry professionals. There seems to be amongst them this real idea that It was not as good as the first one. It was just a decent follow-up. But from the fans that I know, the fans that I see in the chat rooms or, the comment sections, the reviews I've seen from fans, they feel like I feel. This movie was a 99% for me when I rated it. It was off the charts. And maybe because I wasn't a huge fan of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of the professionals said, hey, this movie, we're scared it's not going to be a good comedy sequel like most comedy sequels. It won't be as funny. It might rehash things. I was scared of it being a funny sequel. I didn't want that because the first one was just okay for me. And so when they gave you comedy, but they also said, hey, look, the galaxy is this, but we're making this story right here. It's small. It's about this little group in this small area with his dad. And not only that, we're going to make it emotional. So for me, man, this most of the rock and roll, whatever music, that's not my thing. I didn't grow up with that. Guardians of the Galaxy put me on that. And I'm not saying just, okay, I listen to this music because I watch Guardians of the Galaxy, so it's a good movie. But I would listen to this music, a lot of 70s music, like it's on my playlist and all that now. But I listen to it and I immediately remember the scenes from the movie. I immediately remember how I felt watching that scene. And that for me makes this movie amazing because it put me on something new, but it's connected to that movie for a reason. Because if the scene sucked, I wouldn't care so much about the music. I wouldn't remember it. But the music is attached to great scenes for me. I had a lot of laughs, a lot of heart. Who didn't cry in Guardians of the Galaxy? I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Anyway, number one, you guessed it, the granddaddy of them all, not really, but The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan. What can be said about this movie that hasn't been said? Heath Ledger, legendary performance, rest in peace. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know what else to really say about that. I could do my own video on that movie. That you can't, hands down, you can't. The story structure, the plot, the way it went, coupled with the performances and the action choreography, you just can't. You can't argue that, in my opinion. Alright, so a couple honorable mentions. I would say Captain America Civil War, Avengers 2.5. I know a lot of people are going to be like, why is that not on there? Great movie, but if you listen to me at any point in time, you know there's a huge plot hole in that movie for me that ruins the whole movie. Structurally, as a story, I can't put on my top 10. Batman vs. Superman, I think I like that more than Man of Steel, and I want it on my top 10, but like I said, influence was a big part of my list, and the influence is not there. A masterpiece of a movie that I think is getting more praise as people watch it, but the influence is definitely not there. So those are my honorable mentions. That's my top 10. Go to the comment section. Let me know your top 10. What'd you think? Thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and if you heard it here, it's official canon.